Hi there, for those of you that know me from my Sustainable Energy channel, this is my first video on BMW i3 EV. I bought the EV to complete my sustainable energy transformation using solar power to charge the EV, and while I was upgrading the headlights to LED, I discovered that the headlight housing was quite badly damaged and cracked, and the replacement cost was enormous, so sort of $400, 8,000 Rand. And I have put this video together to try and help people that are repairing headlamps, plastic headlights, to see whether this might help. Excuse the video format, it's shot on my mobile phone, but I hope my journey is interesting, and some of the mistakes I made will save you some pain. So let me know in the comments if it makes sense, and if you like this kind of video, I'll do some more. I've used a paint stripping gun to heat up the surrounding area because the plastic is quite brittle, and obviously this whole plastic housing is under a fair amount of strain. See some big cracks here. So using the heat gun, it softens up the material, just gently warming it up so I can take it apart. Alright, eventually got this out. Had to almost destroy the case as it's all bonded in here. So with a lot of heat and a lot of patience and a lot of prying, I managed to get the Lexan cover off. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like the reflector is going to be easy to restore, but I'll give it a try. Alright, so first of all, I'm going to be using some polyester resin and some fiberglass matting. I have roughed up the area that needs to be bonded, and I made a small little splice piece here to hold the structure together because it has a gap when it's under normal tension. And then I'll apply the polyester across here. I've also been advised to just put some flame on the material and to roughen up to try and get grip, because this stuff is empty, very difficult for anything to stick to. So I've just done that as well, and we'll see how this first application goes. Okay, so I've covered the area where there's actually no material at all in masking tape, so the resin's got some base to it. Then I've cut out a resin template to go over the top, but because the case is actually distorted slightly, I have to squash it together and then use this piece of Perspex as a bridge to hold the two pieces in place while the resin goes off. Okay, so this is my first attempt at fiberglassing after many years. Hopefully I've got enough room underneath my little bridge here. Let's get the stuff down, roughen it up as I said, and we'll just use this first pass, and then I'll have to make a second unit for there. Alright, so here's the structural part of the job finished. It's definitely not very pretty, but it is waterproof, and it does plug all the holes. So that's the first stage. The next stage is going to be how do I go about repairing this reflector. I have to use some kind of an insert there. This is probably the hardest part of the fix. I had to attach a new piece of plastic with a reinforcement tab to be able to secure the mounting. So here's the interim fix in situ. There's the light in all its glory. With the new mounting brackets connected, all in place. As I said, it doesn't look very pretty, but it should. So I found a torch with a similar diameter reflector, which I'm going to cut out, and then drill the 25mm hole at the back and see whether I can insert this into the existing light frame. So here's the existing reflector. As you can see, it's pretty damaged. Here is the reflector from a LED flashlight torch, and I've cut it so it pretty much fits in the existing orifice, and then I will glue that in place, fit the lens back on, and this is probably going to have a very narrow focus beam, but it's certainly going to be better than the mottled effect. Okay, so finishing touches, we have the reflector in place, and then we applied some black silicone to put the Lexan screen back on top, but messy on the silicon, but should have it waterproof. And I'm just using a long weight here to make sure that the pressure is on the lens to ensure it's sealed properly. So as soon as that goes off, we'll give it a final coat and fit the unit back to the car. Okay, so here's the conclusion. Bit of a disaster. The actual lens is way out in terms of aiming. The beam was like miles out. I totally underestimated the sensitivity of aiming the reflector. But after trial and error, I was able to move the reflector around, and by putting little props in place and adding silicon at the back of the reflector, get it to aim more or less in the right direction. I also discovered that one of the aiming mechanisms, screw mechanism, had completely sheared off the headlight housing, and I found that lying in the bottom of the wheel arch cover. So that's why there was such a big hole in the casing. But it still operates, the headlight adjustment still operates. You just have to operate from the rear as opposed to the front, because the transfer mechanism was obviously lost. So the final conclusion is, if you are going to use an alternative reflector, spend a lot of time setting it up. Get a test beam going and get a test aim going. I didn't realize that the whole headlamp is offset, or it's set at an angle to the car. So I set it to point straight, and of course the headlight is the front part of the lens of the headlight is at an angle of sort of 15 degrees. So the headlight pointed out miles out of the way. Once you've got the headlight positioned in the correct orientation, there's a little bit of movement for the reflector to get the aim more or less correct. But as I said right in the beginning, you know, the torch or the flashlight reflector I'm using had a very narrow focus beam, so it's not ideal, but it is working. It's waterproof, it's back on the car, it's bright, and it serves its purpose as an interim replacement. Quite a challenging job, and certainly made some mistakes along the way.